Hi guys, it's Pete from MyJewelryBunch.com. Today I'm going to show you how to freehand use Blender to design an alphanumeric pendant with diamond encrusted surfaces. You can do this with just about any font that you can get on your computer, and remember you have access to hundreds and hundreds of fonts via the internet, your Mac or your PC. And I will walk you through those techniques. Later on in the video I'm going to show you a quick trick to fix a model if you have some problems with it. And let's get started. Before we get started with the next part of our video and our tutorial, I just want to talk to you a little bit about Blender Gems. Some of you guys know about Blender Gems, some of you don't. Blender Gems is a library of a couple hundred models that I've done in Blender that you can use with any 3D program. All of these models are tested with 3D printing and have all been remeshed to work as like Lego blocks, where you can pull in certain designs, create your own models, modify them in any way you want, and then print them in 3D or use them for jewelry designs. This helps support my channel, guys, and if you want to purchase it, it is $50. You can get it available at myjewelrybunch.com, or if you are a Patreon supporter at Tier 2, which is a $5 per month level, you get all of these models, any updates, as well as other models that I do for free at that support level. Again, all this goes to help my channel, and I appreciate all the support I get. Let's get started on the tutorial. Okay guys, let's get started with this tutorial. This tutorial comes to you from a viewer request. He wants to know how to add diamonds on a lettered pendant. He wants to use specifically the letter G. And I am not going to go crazy looking for a million different fonts to get that right font that everybody seems to like. You guys can go pick your own fonts. I'm just going to show you basically how to do this. So the first thing I want to do is I want to add in some text. So I am going to turn on my keycasts, and we'll turn that on. I'm going to put that right here in this corner, so every time I press a button or a mouse or use the mouse wheel, you will see what happens here. Let's go back to the 3D view. I'm going to hit Shift A. I'm going to add in some text. I'm going to go into edit mode by pressing the Tab key, backspace, and type in a capital G so that we can make this for our viewer. So with that letter G selected, I'm going to come over to my Items tab here, and I'm going to make this 20 millimeters along the Y-axis. So I'm going to size this up, S, and we will make that 20 millimeters, right about there. Looks good. And now I like to work in the center of my screen, so I am going to set the origin to the letter G in the center of mass, set origin to center of mass. Now I'll press Shift S and I will move it to the selection of cursor. So now it's in the middle of my screen, and now we can go and modify this G to make it look like what we want. So let's get started with that. With the G selected, I will come over to my font tools. Now this is still a mesh, or I'm sorry, this is still a letter curve, so it has nothing to do with meshes. We can still modify the font, so I will select my font tool. I will come down to the Properties tab under Geometry. And here what we're going to do is we're going to extrude this just a little bit, about like so. And then I will give this some beveled depth. And I'm not going to give it a lot, but just enough, about like so. So that I've got a nice beveled edge around the parameter of the G. And now what I can do is convert this to a mesh, because that's about how I want it to be. So I'm going to right click on the letter G. I'm going to convert it to a mesh. You can see here it's the fourth one down. And now I've converted this to a mesh object, and you can tell that it's a mesh object because we have the little mesh tool here. I will enter edit mode by pressing the Tab key, and now you can see there is our meshed object in the shape of a letter G. So the next thing I want to show you is how to grab the perimeter of this, because typically in a lettered pendant we have a bezel ring that kind of encompasses the entire parameter of the letter. So I'm going to show you how to do that, and you can do it differently if you want, but I'm going to show you how I do it. I come over and I select the face tool right up here in the upper left corner. With the face tool selected, I'll move my mouse down to the bottom section of the G. I'm just going to zoom in a little bit, and I'm going to select the beveled edge here. So what I'm going to do that is hold the Shift key down. While holding the Shift key down, I hold the Alt key down, and now I can move my mouse and press my mouse wherever I want to select that beveled edge. I'm going to grab this one here, and what I want to do is kind of grab the perimeter, and Let's see if I can do that. Okay, so now that I'm holding the Shift key and the Alt key down, I'm going to select the faces, and what I'm trying to do is select the perimeter, and I do that by clicking on the closest edge loop that runs vertically, and if I get that correct, you can see now that I've selected these. Okay, so you can see that I've selected the 5 faces along the entire perimeter of the letter G, and with those selected, I'm going to press the E key to extrude, and I'm just going to zoom out here so we can see most of the G. I'm going to press the E key to extrude, and then I will press the Z key to extrude along the Z axis only, and now if I move my mouse up, you can see I'm actually making a bezeled edge around the entire perimeter of the letter. So that looks pretty good to me. You can make it any height or depth that you want. I'm pretty happy with the way that looks, so I'm going to leave it there. I'm going to go back into object mode by pressing the Tab key. In object mode, I'm going to add one more object. We're going to add in a torus loop, because what we want to do is add in the ring. If I zoom in here, we want the ring to be at the top that we can attach our bail to so that we can hang this from a chain. So I'm going to come over here. I will hit Shift A. I'm going to come to Mesh and down to Torus. Now with my parameters list here, I can make changes to these. I'm going to just bump this up to 20. I'm going to make my my major radius a little bit larger. My minor radius, going to make that a little bit larger also to about here. That looks pretty good. I'm just going to make that a little bit bigger. That looks good about there. I'm going to go back into top view. I'm going to grab the G key, and I can move this to about here. And I'm going to make that a little smaller along the Z axis, SZ, just to give it a little bit of thinness. And I'm going to lower it so that we look at this. Oh, we're still below the perimeter. That looks good right there. And that would be the attachment point for our bail. And if I'm eyeballing this, I can move this over just a little bit so that we have approximate weighted issue, so this weights perfectly. But you can go ahead and modify that to whatever you'd like. With the torus selected, I'm going to hold the Shift key down, select my letter, and now I've got both objects selected. I'll go to my Boolean tools, select the Boolean Union, and then join those 2 meshes together into one. While I've got that selected, I'm just going to come over here to my outliner, and I'm going to change that to letter G. Okay, that part is done. Now, the next part is we have to add in some diamonds. The next step is knowing what size diamonds that you want here. Now, you have choices along how you want to do it, and I'm going to show you a couple different ways to add in your diamonds. It's up to you how you want to add them. So I'm going to do a couple different things here, and then you can go do it the way you'd like to do it. But there are 2 simple ways to do this. One is just to add in every diamond along the perimeter of where you'd like the diamonds to be. The second way is to create curves that you'll have to manually overlay onto this. And you can use the scatter tool in Jewelcraft to scatter those along the curve. Now there's no quick way to grab in the curve here unless we did a couple different things. So I'm going to show you one quick way so that you can do it. Go back into edit mode. I'm going to select my edge tool here, and I will select, let's say, this edge loop right here. So I'm going to select that, hold the Shift key down, hold the Alt key down, and select the next one there. And now you see we have an edge loop that goes all the way around the perimeter of our model. Now that is still attached to this particular letter G. So what I want to do now is duplicate that edge loop. So I'm going to hit Shift D and then press Enter. And now I've duplicated that perimeter. So I have this line, this outline of a G that looks pretty good. I'm pretty happy with the way that looks. And I've got to separate that now from the letter G because it's actually still part of our model. You can see the edge here when it's selected. Of course, if I don't select it, it's just a black outline, and it is still part of the letter G. So I'm going to go back into tab edit mode with the tab key, and I'm going to hit the P key to separate. Once you've pressed P, you'll get three options on the screen. The first option is separate. Separate by material is the second, and then loose parts. We're going to hit the selection, and now the outline there is a completely different mesh object from our letter G. If I go back into object mode, I can now select this outline separately from the letter G. So this is still a mesh object, and if we look over here, you can see the mesh indicator that this is a mesh tool. What I want to do now is right click on this and see if I have the option to convert it to a curve, which I don't, so we will hit the selection button, come over to object and convert to, and I'm going to convert curve from mesh or text. So now this line, if you look at the letter G001, is now a curved object. I'm going to go back into the top orthographic view, and I'm going to size that down. So I'm going to hit S. I'm going to size this down just a little bit, and you can see it really doesn't help us too much because it's sizing it in an odd way. If I hit SX, I can drag this around, SY, get this, see, I'm never going to get it exactly where I want it, so I'm just going to come back to that. And we're going to go back one more time. So here I've got my curved object. So I'm going to go ahead and add in Jewelcraft. I'm going to come in and add a gemstone. I'm going to make this 1.25 millimeters, and we'll hit append. And there is our diamond. Now with the diamond selected, I am going to just raise that up just a little bit. I'm going to select our curve object that's in the shape of a G, and then I will hit scatter along curve. Press that once, and now we can add in as many diamonds as we want. So I'm just going to keep adding them until I get them to about like so. And not perfect, but you can see it's kind of doing what I want. If I use the offset key, I can offset those along the z-axis. And then where do I want them to start or end? See, this is the problem that we have with this tool, because it does not allow me to add in the diamonds in the exact way I'd like them onto the mesh. But you can do that. You'll have to play with these. If I select my mesh tool and hit tab, now I have got points all over. I can grab those points, and if I come in from the top view, I can hit G and kind of move them along wherever I want them, and just space them wherever I'd like them to be. Let's say here, G, bring that down. And again, we're not perfect, but we're getting there. And I have tons of little points to move to get these to where I'd like them. And you see everywhere there's a dark dot right here, that's a point that I can move in the row I want it to move in. And you can see this takes a little bit of time, but that is a way that you can do that. I'm going to hit Control Z, we'll come back out of here. Okay, so now I've got my letter G, and what I'm going to do is just select my curve object that I created, and I'm going to hide that. The other thing I can do is grab a diamond, hit the G key in top view, hit the G key and kind of move that anywhere I would like it. I'm going to raise that up just a little bit so that it sits right above the base, and you can see got the perimeter of the diamond just about on the surface. And now I can hit Shift D and then G, and I can duplicate and move that to about here. Now again, there's no easy way to kind of spread these around, but I can take this, hold the Shift key down, hit Shift D and then G, and then move these alongside. Shift D, G, and just keep doing that until I get the diamonds. Let's see, I'm going to grab 4 of them. Shift D and then G, and I can move these 4 over here. Shift D, then G, and then move those down here. And you can see what I'm doing. Shift D, then G, and then move those down here. And I'm getting those a little bit better, kind of along where I want them. Now I've got to deal with this curve. So I'm going to duplicate this particular diamond by itself and put that here. And now I can take these two, Shift D, then G, and then move them alongside. DG, we're going to move that over here. Shift and Shift DG, and then I got two diamonds. Shift DG, I've got two more diamonds. I'm going to rotate along the Z-axis so that we're kind of bending along the circumference. RZ, and we're just going to turn them around like so. And you can see now I can make that all the way around like so. I'm going to go ahead and do that, and I'll just skip through this and fast forward it. Okay, so now here you can see that I have my G, and I have it in the form of this particular text font, and I've duplicated these diamonds all the way around. Now you'll notice that the outer perimeter of diamonds is further separated from the inner diamonds, which are much closer together. You can shift these around as best you can, as best as you want. So you can grab any diamond. From the top view, I can just select G and kind of move them around wherever I want. And if I need to add in more diamonds along the top, I can actually move these a little bit closer and then just put them together where I'd like them. And then wherever I have the largest gap, I can go in, Shift D, G, and then add in a new diamond. And then Shift D, G, just add in another diamond right here. That one there, we'll just grab it and move it over. And I'll just keep doing this until I get it to the point where I like it. Okay, so I'm pretty happy with the way that looks. Now, what I want to do is I want to select all of my diamonds, and I want to make sure that we can then go through and add in the prongs and the cutters to each of these diamonds. Now it's going to be a little tricky to do this, and you probably will have to make some changes to each of these, but one way to do this, very simple way to do this, is just to come over to your outline here and select all the diamonds. So I'm going to grab the first round, and I'm going to come down, and I've got 79 diamonds. I'm going to hit the Shift key, select that. All of the diamonds are now selected. With all of those diamonds selected, I can go ahead and add prongs. Now using the Jewel Craft tool, I can then change the size of my prongs, the diameter, the position of those prongs, where they intersect, the alignment. All of that is available here. So I'm going to select 2 prongs per stone, and I'm going to make these a little bit smaller. So let's just change the diameter a little bit. And I'm going to change the position, so I'm going to rotate those around about like so. And that gives me the prongs all within the outline of the letter G. And I'm going to lower those just a little bit, just to make those a little shallower. And that looks pretty good. I'm happy with that. Now with all of those diamonds selected, also I can come over to my cutters tool and select my cutter tool here. So I'm going to grab that cut tool, and now all of my cutters have been added to the model. Now this is where it gets a little tricky. So what I'm going to do, because I want to remove all of those from my letter G, I'm just going to select my letter G. I'm going to go into edit mode. I'm going to hit A to select all, and I'm going to hit Shift N just to make sure that the outline of my model is correct and all the faces are outward. And I'm also going to put this in orthographic view, so I'm looking at it from the side this time using the 1 key on my keypad, or you can use the tilde key, the upper left corner of your keyboard, and come over and hit the tilde key and go to front. And now I will select the invisible so that I'm going to see all of those. I'm going to grab all of these cutters. Now we see all of our cutters are selected. I'm going to hold the Shift key down and select my letter G. With all of those cutters selected, I'm going to come over to my Boolean tool and select difference. Now this may take a few seconds here to do the calculations, so just bear with your computer. and we are going to see if this gives us any errors. If it does, we can always use the Control-G to eliminate those errors. I'm going to turn off my invisibility tool, and you can see now all of the holes have been added to the bottom part of our model. It did give us a whole bunch of errors. So I am going to hit Control-Z and go back to top view. With that done, I'm going to hit the letter G. Okay, so with my letter G selected, I'm going to go into edit mode. I'm going to press in Control-T and recalculate all of my faces into triangles. Now every single face on the letter G is a triangle. And what I'm going to do is I'm just going to move that up so that you can see it. And that's not terribly bad. I'm going to hit Control-Z to move that back in. Go back into object mode. And now I'm just going to grab a few of these prongs, or these cutters, at a time. So I'm just going to grab in maybe 4 or 8. So with these 8 selected, I'm going to come over to hold my Shift key down and select my G key, hit difference, and that should put in all the holes just the way I want them. I'm going to zoom in here and make sure that everything looks good. It does not look good still. Not sure why. Let's hit Control-Z. And this is a problem with the Boolean tool, unfortunately, with certain models. No matter what I do, sometimes I never seem to be able to get them right. It's going to do one at a time. And just do a difference. And we're still getting errors in our model. Okay, so the next thing I want to do, since I've got all my cutters here, is what I want to do is grab in all of my prongs. So where are the prongs? The prongs are right here. And those prongs are actually attached to each of the diamonds. So I'm going to select each of the prongs individually. And sadly, you have to go through this way. I'm going to select my model, and then I'm going to Boolean Union them. And I can find out which ones are which that are not attached simply by clicking on them. I'm trying not to make sure that I don't click on any of the cutters. We just want the prongs. And union. Okay, everything's selected. I'm going to join those with the Union tool. And now we can grab a cutter and select that cutter, select our letter G, and then I want to delete that and see if the difference makes that work good. Let's just take a look at the bottom. And we still get some errors in our model for some stupid reason. So I'm going to hit Control-Z. 1. Let's select all of those. X, delete. Okay, so there is my diamonds and my prongs are all attached. There are no cutters. So if I want to take this diamond, go to Jewel Craft, we'll add in a cutter. And now if I have that cutter selected, hold the Shift key down, grab my letter G, I can then go to the Boolean tool, do difference, and let's see if it cuts that out, and it did. It cut that out perfect. And what I want to do is do that for all of the stones that I need to make holes for. So I will go to Jewel Craft, hit cutter, select those 4, holding the Shift key down, then select the letter G, go to my Boolean tool, and I'm just going to do this a little bit at a time to make sure that it all works perfectly. And you can see it is working good right now. So I've got this diamond, this one, that one, and the last one. We'll go and add in some cutters. Then I will select those 4 that we just added and the letter G, come to our Boolean tool, difference, and so far so good. We're starting to get some errors in our model, and that may be a problem. One more issue that I want to cover. Obviously, we're having some issues with our getting our cutters to work. So I'm going to show you a little trick that I've learned that sometimes helps this problem go away. I'm going to select the letter G, just the character here, G. And if I move that up and down, you can see that's all I have selected. I'm going to move that back to where it was. I am going to, with that selected, go to File, Export, and I'm going to export that out as the selection only. And I'm going to call that the letter G, STL, and I'm going to save it as an STL. With that exported, I'm going to take my letter G, I'm going to delete my letter G, and I'm going to import the STL that I just exported. So I will go find my letter L, there it is, and import it. And here we have our letter G, and you can see that the initial cutters that I had in there are fine. And now what I'm going to do is grab some of the other diamonds that I need to cut out. And those are right there. And I'm going to go to Jewelcraft. I'm going to add in my cutters, and then I will select my cutters, 1, 2, 3, 4 with the Shift key. And while holding the Shift key down, select my letter G, go to the Boolean tool, and then I will use the difference tool on those. And there you have it. We've solved our problem with our mesh model. Now again, guys, I'm not going to bore you with this. I'm just going to select all of the other diamonds here, and I will go cut them out. Okay, so there you have it. If you look underneath our model, all of our cutouts have been applied, all the holes are placed, all the prongs are set, that letter is ready for casting, and then we can go ahead, grab 80 diamonds, and then set all those diamonds into that model. I hope you enjoyed this video, guys. Again, this is just a quick reference to how to do it, specifically with this particular font, but you can do it with just about any font. And how you choose to get your diamonds set up is your business. I showed you one way. I started showing you a second way using the curve tool that you might be able to use. And if that works for you, great. If you have any questions, please leave them in the comment section below. And if you want to see any requests, again, leave those in the comment section below. If you're not a subscriber, please consider subscribing, because it does help my channel grow. It does do something for the algorithm, and the more likes I get on my videos, the more it helps them to be viewed.